Hello friends, welcome to the lecture of Internet of Things. So in this today's class we will go through a new topic that is called smart government. So let's begin. So before we go into detail about smart government and different things that are associated with the smart government, we should try to understand about what exactly is a smart government. So smart government is nothing but it's about using technology to facilitate and support better planning and decision making. So basically in governments we basically do some sort of planning, we take certain decision, and the new technologies can perform some task in incorporating these different aspects of our governments. It's about improving democratic process and transforming the way that public services are delivered. It basically helps in the democratic processes, and it's try to transform the way in which the current public services are being delivered. So whatever the public services are being offered to the citizen by the government, it will try to transform those public services and make it a better delivery process of those public services. It's a new way of governments relying on information and communication technologies, and it is citizen centric, data driven, and performance focused. So the basic backbone in terms of like smart government, it basically utilizes two important aspects, that is information and communication technologies. So whatever information is there, it will dissipate it through variety of public, including like citizen, government. So whatever information is there, it will be dissipated to all those public, and it will be basically done with the help of advanced communication technologies. So with that, it is basically focusing on the aspects of citizen centric, then it will be data driven, and it is focusing on the performance. So in other words, it is actually focusing on citizens. Whatever the information or data that is being generated, it will be stored, and that data can be utilized later, and it basically improves the performance of the government. The concept of smart government relies on consolidated information system and communication network. So basically, the smart government relies on consolidating the information system, like the consolidation of information through variety of system, and the communication network. So the network that will be utilized, or that is being used in order to perform the communication. So this is about smart government. Let's try to understand about different strategies or technologies that can shape a smarter government. Okay, so basically in this part we will try to understand what are the different things that are associated, or what are the different things that we can, with the help of that, we can make a smarter government. So the first one is citizen engagement. So in citizen engagement, for the first one, the communication and interaction behavior are increasingly being influenced by fast pace of advancement in the disruptive communication technologies. So whatever the communication, whatever the interaction between the citizen, those are actually influenced by the fast advancement in the cutting edge new communication technologies. So in earlier days, when there is a very less advancement in the communication technologies, so the interaction and the communication between the citizen and between two citizens, or between the citizens and the government, so there is a less scope of direct interaction. Okay, but with the help of better communication technologies and better infrastructure, so communication sharing of those information and communication between the citizen and the government, it becomes very easy. Next, the people expect a seamless mobile first personalized digital experience from any brand, NGO, or even government. So in the advancement of with respect to the digitization, people basically they are expecting some sort of mobile first personal a digital experience. So basically the public need is that whatever information, whatever data, or whatever sort of things that are available, that are actually uh, made available for them, that need to be seamless, and that need to be personalized for them. So they basically expect all these things from any sort of brand, from any NGO, or they try to have this sort of things through government as well. So basically, what kind of example we can draw from this one? Basically, in earlier thing, like whatever, for example, class 10th and 12th board result. So in earlier days, those board result, the students after writing the exam, the results were declared, and they need to collect those results directly from the schools during when actually the results are being declared. But nowadays what we can do, we can simply send a SMS, or we can simply put the student roll number, and directly from the internet they can get their uh, result. Okay, similarly with respect to anything, with respect to other thing, like if somebody is applying for any driving license or something, so they can apply it online instead of going to the transport office for that particular region. They can apply their driving license in the online system. They can raise a request for that. So once everything has been verified uh, from the government's point of view, so they will be called for the next action that need to be performed. So all these things can be in the help in the digital shape. Then the third point is active engagement of the citizen on their preferred channel. For example, Facebook, WhatsApp, etc., will allow public sector institutions to better understand the needs and the behavior of the citizen. So in today's world, like most of us, we are engaged with these kind of channels like Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram. So we know what are the things that is being going on in and around us and around the world. So public sector institution, they can utilize this platform to better understand about the public needs. So what exactly the citizen require, they can make it from there, and they can utilize that data to perform better. Similarly, governments need to understand the citizens behavior through this kind of platform as well. Then regular analysis of this engagement with citizen will ultimately result in the prematurely optimized digital experience for the public. So whatever things that is being going in and around the digital world, so basically the government can utilize this data to understand and provide better digital experience for the public. Then the last one, focus on building a relationship with citizen based on two-way communication across any device or platform. So basically, in order to build the relationship between the citizen and the government, so there should be two-way communication across whatever device or whatever platform that will be utilized. So there should be a two-way communication, like to the to the public and from the public. That means from the public to the government, and from the government to the public. So this two-way communication should be available. The next one is transparency and open data. So in today's world, so uh, like whatever the government is actually performing, so all those data need to be made available in public, so that public can have a transparent view of all those information and data that is being actually generated, or the decision that is being taken upon the public. So the first one in this regard, in an increasing digital world, people are becoming more engaged and decision and making more informed decision. So basically, with the increasing aspects of our digital world, people are become more and more engaged in decision making, and they are actually taking good decision based on the information that they gather. So these decision basically they rely on, or they are basically credible by variable data. So for example, we can uh, take this kind of data from customer review, from Amazon, Flipkart, or any particular e-commerce website. So basically, what is happening over there? After purchasing any item, the customer are actually giving reviews on those items. So if any other customer try to purchase any such commodity, they can go through the review and they can have a very transparent view of those product, whether to have that particular item or not. Similarly, in the government also, there should be some sort of feedback kind of thing should be available, or review kind of thing should be available. So based on that, people give their reviews, and the other person, those who want to take those services, they can go through it, and they can have a better idea. And in other words also, like the government can also utilize those sort of feedback or those sort of review to improve in their sector. So basically, in short, people engage with the platform that are transparent and relevant data. So basically, people required a kind of system which are basically like dependent on the digital world, and whatever the data that is being generated out of them, or that is being generated by them, it should be transparent and it should be relatively available to them. Okay. Then involving the public gives them a sense of ownership and commitment towards the common good. So if we involve, if the government is actually involving the public or involving the citizen, and if they are being able to view those data that is being generated to them, so the people or the public will feel confident that the government is actually involving them in the decision making. So it will actually try to increase the bond between the public and the government. So the last point is taking into consideration like the privacy issue, security risk, and and the public permissions. Public sector institute must make all public document processes and policies available for the citizen in any format. So the public sector institute, after consideration of all those issues like privacy issues, security risk, and permission, okay, so those institute must releases all their, or must make all the documents public, whatever the process they are following and whatever the policies that are available, those need to be made available for the public. The next one is e-citizenship. So when the word comes e-citizenship, there is one sort of device or one sort of thing that will be coming, that is called as digital IDs, or we can call it as e-IDs. So with e-IDs, e-IDs are actually becoming the default form of official identification across the world. So basically, whatever in today's world, like in India, we are having a heck lot of IDs. Like in students' life, we will be having student ID. Then later on, we will be having pa- PAN card, passport, Aadhaar card, driving license, voter ID card. So there is a lot of different IDs that are actually available. So what EID consists of? EID is a digital form of ID where all these IDs can be merged together to form a identification. And these EIDs are actually easy to manage, and it is actually giving much more benefit when uh, the people are actually moving across the border. Okay, so the second point is actually trying to discuss about that one. The major benefits of adopting the digital IDs is the opportunity to enhance the connectivity and services delivery across the border. So if the people are moving from one country to the another country, or from one state to the another state, where they require some sort of permission based on the IDs, so the government can utilize those EIDs and they can validate a person, and permission can be granted based on that. Okay, so instead of physically verifying all those IDs, where a possibility that the person can make fake IDs and all those parts will become obsolete, and um, like whatever the process presently we are following across the border, so it will become easy. Another advantage of having EID, suppose we are moving from one country to the another country for some sort of tourism aspect, like we want to view some places, and while going there we lost our passport and visas. So in that case, what can happen, like we will be like the people will be stuck in that country for like for some for some reason. So the advantage of having EID is that even if we are losing those sort of physical IDs, with the help of EIDs, like the people can easily, the government of that particular country can easily identify the person belong to which country and what is the purpose of the visit, and based on that, the action can be taken, and the person can be shifted from that country to their native places. So these are some sort of advantages of having EIDs, but there are still many steps to take toward the full digitization in many countries, including our India also. Like most of us, we don't have any EIDs, so only the EIDs that is actually available in India is called is our Aadhaar card. But like in some countries only this sort of EIDs is actually available, but most of the countries that need to be, there is a scope of having they need to implement that sort of EIDs. So this is about the e-citizenship, and there are some other strategies and other aspects of our smart government that is being that need to be made available, and that we will be discussing in our next lecture. So that's all for today. I'll try to add some more feature or some more topics in the later on lectures. Thank you.